Well, good morning, everybody. It's 10 a.m. Welcome to Lust for the Deal. As always, a couple of quick housekeeping items before we introduce our panel. We've muted all sound and video, but if for any reason you see yourself on the screen, please hit the mute button. The only people who should be on the screen at any time are the five of us as you see us right now. We do have a Q&A button, a chat button down there. If you have a comment to make or a question to ask, feel free to hit the chat button, pop it in there. We'll be keeping an eye on it. And if it's appropriate, we'll certainly pose it to the panelists as the event proceeds. And then finally, the inevitable question I get, yes, we are recording today's program late this afternoon, early evening. We will send out to you a link that will take you to YouTube, where the full proceedings will be, the full recording will be on online. So why today's program? Well, as with all buying and investment opportunities, it's about the timing, and never has that been more relevant and timelier than now, as the San Francisco condominium market, which is notorious for its volatility and unpredictability, unleashes exceptional deal possibilities. And to better understand what's happening in the marketplace and how to identify, unearth, and negotiate those deal opportunities that are out there, we've assembled a panel of experts who know and live the luxury condominium market. It's an insider group of, I term, industry Sherpas who will guide us through the process without the risk that normally attaches itself to a purchase of this type. Let me introduce our panelists very briefly. Jonathan Deason, alphabetical order. Jonathan Deason of Vanguard Properties, a top producer with extensive experience in the listing of sales of new construction condo buildings and TIC conversion projects, having sold more than 100 of such units. Garrett Frakes, co-founder and managing partner of Polaris Pacific, a leading California sales and marketing company selling urban condo homes in Northern and Southern Cal, Washington, Oregon, Hawaii, Colorado, and Arizona. Chryson Heathwood, Senior Managing Director of Market Development and Client Relations at Compass Development Marketing Group, which represents an impressive portfolio of real estate developments, including 181 Fremont, the residences at Yerba Buena, and Stanley Ranch, which is part of Auberge Resorts. And finally, Greg Lynn, Senior Global Real Estate Advisor from Sotheby's International Realty. Greg is considered to be the supreme commander of San Francisco luxury condo sales, with 2 decades of transacting exclusively in San Francisco, resulting in over $2 billion in closed sales. And he set the high watermark sales for 999 Green penthouse in 22 at $29 million, and the St. Regis penthouse in 2011 at $28 million. Panelists, welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us today. Let's go around the table, and I'd like to start with you, Jonathan, if I may. To the four of you, headlines, keep it brief, sort of 30,000 feet, but how would you summarize the condo market today? And think Bay Area as much as possible. I know a lot of today's conversation is going to be San Francisco centric, but give me a sort of an overview of the condo market in terms of what's it like out there, the feeling, the gestalt. What are people saying, doing? What are they telling you about the marketplace? Jonathan, you have the floor.
Thanks, Al. I wanted to first introduce my colleague, Alan Martinez, who's on my team here at Vanguard Properties. And nice to see everyone else on the panel today. My general feeling is optimism at this point. We have gone through, I would say it's been about a year now, or 11 months of a pretty dramatic adjustment at the end of spring of last year, beginning of summer. And we've been, sort of trundling along, I would say. And really in the past 2 months, I've felt a big change in the market. Units are selling that were not selling in the fall of last year, into the winter of last year. Sellers are becoming more realistic in terms of their expectations coming out of the wonderful sellers market that was 2021 and early 2022. And there's just finally a connection between buyers and sellers. So on the buyer side, great opportunity. On the seller side, if you're have adjusted your expectations to be a little bit more realistic, real opportunities to make sales now that were not there at the end of last year.
Okay. Garrett, you're on mute. Comments? Summary?
Yeah, I would agree with what Jonathan just said. I mean, it's a significantly healthier market coming into 2023. Interest rates are moving back towards us again. I mean, we're seeing 30-year fixed money in the 5s, which is still a terrific rate at this point. As it relates to Silicon Valley and East Bay markets, and East Bay is this huge swath of territory, so I want to be careful about it. But we're active in Hayward right now. We're seeing, really good traction there. We're seeing, a desire from first-time home buyers to get into the condo market, and so it's been a significantly better 2023 for sure.
Bryson?
Cautiously bullish, for sure. And now is the time to buy. Buyers are out there much more significantly than they were at the end of 2022. And kind of piggybacking on what Garrett just said, what's interesting is we are seeing a significant number of buyers coming from outside of San Francisco and purchasing in San Francisco. So that includes tech workers who are coming back to the city, and also second home purchasers.
And I'm going to drill down to some of the specifics in a moment. We'll come back to that. Greg, from your viewpoint?
Echoing what everyone has said, our last 6 to 7 weeks have been more productive than all of 2022. And we're not doing anything differently other than trying to manage sellers and getting them ready so they are more realistic when those few buyers do come. The only thing that I'll add that I haven't heard yet is we are seeing a flight to quality. With inventory down, with buyers down further, the buyers who are out realize that they have choices. And we've sold about $31 million in resale downtown just in the last 8 weeks. All cash buyers, all second homes, but everybody coming, touring everything, and choosing to negotiate on the best of quality. So the buyers that are out there are looking for a flight to quality. And we're getting our sellers positioned that when they come, we'll have one opportunity to negotiate. Listings that we've had on the market for 12 to 14 months are now being shown 3 times a week. That's quite a different change in the energy of downtown real estate. So we're very pleased, but also cautiously bullish about what the next couple of months is going to bring us.
Greg, to you and to the rest of the table, what happened on January 1? Apparently, fourth quarter 22 was bad. It shut down. All of a sudden, the floodgates opened. Why?
I personally think that the smart buyers who want to be in San Francisco, who are not here yet, or move up buyers who are renting and want to buy in the $2 to $5 to $8 million range, realize that the last 6 months of 2022 was the bottom of the San Francisco condominium market. And now smart buyers are moving in to say there's little evidence that prices are going to go down any further. So we're going to negotiate the best we can to find the best quality we can before somebody else takes that. So I think that the bottom is in our rearview mirror, and smart, savvy, affluent buyers have recognized that.
Christ, anything to add to that?
I agree with what Greg is saying. There is a significant number of buyers in the market who recognize that now is the time to purchase. The bottom is behind them. But there's one point I'd like to make in addition, is that this notion that everyone is looking for the best home at the best price. People are not, or buyers are not, they're not sitting on the sidelines if the best home is available for them to purchase at that time.
Garrett, anything to add?
Just one additional comment. Our median price in District 9 right now is at 2017 levels. So we've basically, had a run up and then a run back down again. We're at 2017 levels. It's, if you want some, sort of, everybody's got an opinion, right? Everybody says, well, we think the pricing is bottomed in the market. Well, we're in 2017 prices. And I think you got to tell buyers that. And you have to say, you're not going to get 25% more off of this price. We're going to negotiate with you. We're going to do everything we can to get a deal together. But it also isn't a fire sale, because we have come down significantly, over the past, call it, 12 to 24 months or so.
Garrett,
And
we have bottomed out.
we bottomed out actually Labor Day of 2022 in District 9. Absolute bottom. We had no transactions that week, and the surrounding weeks were at about 2 transactions in the entirety of District 9. You got to think of how many condos are out there. So, and it's been a very slow, steady recovery since then. It's not back to 2019 or 2021 levels, but it is consistently moving up. And I do think that we've found the right price. It took a long time for some of our sellers, both, I'm sure on the resale level, we're dealing with, more corporate based sellers on my side of the world. It took a long time for them to sort of accept reality and the numerous stages of grief. And they're finally in acceptance right now that, the pricing is what it is. And to actually transact, they're going to have to hit a certain, benchmark or a certain number in a building.
I'd like to add to what Garrett said just for a moment, if I may.
Please.
When he says that we're at 2017 price levels, I'm assuming you're talking about new construction product.
No, that's median price across District 9 for all product.
Wow. We have clients that would be thrilled if we could achieve 2017 levels, but we think that we're much further beyond that and much lower than 2017 levels.
It may very well be. I mean, median price tends to trail, but it's right now it's just a little bit over $1 million in District 9, and the last time it hit that point was 17. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. And I do think in certain buildings and in certain neighborhoods or whatever within District 9, you're going to see some variances to that.
Yeah.
Bryson, you had a comment?
Yeah, 2 things. You asked, what happened on January 1. And what I'd like to say is I've been using this saying that it's a process to process, right? And I think we saw from our low in August or September, as Garrett mentioned, till now, all these sellers were processing the process, right? So now everyone's gotten much more real and we're starting to see the market move. But to Greg's point, I think that the prices have come down even further than 2017. And the reason why I feel that way is there's what the platforms like MLS and so forth are telling us, right? But then there's the actual reality of what's getting traded that's either off market or, the original list price was higher than what the MLS says. And what we're hearing on the market is those homes that are moving are somewhere in that 15 to 20% off range versus this, 10 or 12% off range. Greg, I don't know if you have any thoughts around that.
No, because we don't sell from spreadsheets that represent a large group of inventory owned by one, corporation at a property. We deal with 60 different households and their appetite for selling at any one given moment. So it's a very different animal for resale.
All right, let's hold it there. Jonathan, go ahead, comment.
I was going to add a couple things. I also tend to have the feeling of Greg as well. I mean, we recently sold the unit, at 2013 pricing, and the seller was happy to get that price. But I wanted to go back to the January 1st. I think the January 1st is just, it just has a little bit of magic about it. Like some things change, people go back to the gym, people make decisions in their lives. They come around to decisions that have already been made for them and realize that those decisions have been made for them, months prior on January 1st. And I think the buyers that have been on the sidelines or were on the sidelines in the fall of last year, that saw the opportunity in pricing and were just waiting to see if that was the bottom. It became evident very quickly in 2023 that that was the bottom, and that there wasn't going to be a flood of inventory at these bottom prices. And so the buyers, who thought they had the upper hand, like it was, buyers really felt like they had the upper hand at the end of last year. Now they're seeing that there isn't like an unlimited amount of great products that they can just go and be picky about. So they're they're sort of being more realistic. They're seeing what the inventory is, and they're now off the sidelines. So I think that's sort of what happened at the January 1st-ish.
Let me ask you a question on inventories and days on market. Where do we stand right now? Greg, kick me off. Inventory level?
Inventory is down everywhere except District 9, where it is always in brisk supply.
Jonathan, anything to add?
I totally agree with that, but the choice inventory of properties that are selling are always, and of course you have to add that are in realistic price points, based on what they actually should be transacting at, based on comparable sales, are being bought.
Garrett, inventory levels, days on market?
District 9 I'm looking at right now is at about 5 months, and it's down from 7 months in fourth quarter. And those were some pretty high numbers historically. And when I say historically, the last couple of years, it's been typically between 2 and 4 months. So we're riding a little high right now, but we're not riding at as high a number, at 7 months, which is a ton of inventory, and which we hit in November of 22. But it is, it's coming down, which is helping firm pricing a little bit. But I think, Greg's point was right in the saying that there's typically, a selection of units within any of these condo towers that you can look at. So it's, inventory is okay. I don't think it's terribly high or terribly low right now. It's just okay.
Bryson, anything to add?
Yeah, I'd like to take it from the perspective of new developments only. I've been doing this a really long time, so I'm going to date myself here, but right now, and I'm just using averages here or rounding them up or down, we have about, let's say, 1,000 to 1,100 new development condos on the market that are available to be sold. In 2008, we had 3,500.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then conversely, in 2013, 2014, I think we were under 500. So that's giving you the breadth of where we've been on either side. So we do not have that much inventory remaining on the new development side.
I would agree with that.
Let's stay with the development side. I'm going to come to you first, Garrett, if I may. How are developers responding to the current situation? What's their mindset right now in terms of reducing price, delaying projects, all of the above?
I think not everybody, but I think, company to company, corporation to corporation, they're dealing with it differently because they have different motivations. And so it can get very specific. We have some developers that are just, very content to not really do much at all. And we have others that have, completely made the decision to meet the market. With the latter group, when they meet the market, we transact at a really significant pace.
Are they running scared?
No, these are very sophisticated sellers, and they're real estate developers. They're somewhat, they have a maverick mentality to a certain extent, and some deals work really well, some deals are okay, and some deals are terrible. And there's probably as many, you know, really positive transactions and developments that they've done as there are negative. And if this one is negative, it's just like, okay, what do we want to do? What are the goals? Do we want to get rid of this inventory, lower our carry cost? A lot of them are saying to me right now, I want to get out, which is really good for the buyers, because I'm seeing tremendous opportunity in either distressed or in, you know, some other areas of real estate development. It's not just, they're not just condominium developers, they're apartment developers, commercial developers, industrial developers, you know, warehouse developers. They're, you know, these are large companies. But I think the bottom line is for the ones that have made the decision and accepted, you know, the reality of market pricing, we're moving inventory, which is great.
Bryson, what are you feeling?
Exactly that. Those developers that are educated and have been to the table in these types of markets before are recognizing that they can't chase the market down.
Mhm.
They've got to get, you know, very strategic, and they need to sell homes for, you know, the market price and what buyers will, you know, purchase for right now. So those developers are doing far better than the developers that are waiting on the sidelines for the market to improve.
So that's a nice way of saying that we have a motivated seller class right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would say largely that's the case. You know, one thing that COVID did in retrospect was that it head faked us several times. You know, I remember getting my first vaccination of April of 21, and I thought, well, this is it. This is the beginning of a better day. And then, you know, whatever the variants came along, or, you know, Delta came along, or Omicron came along, and it kept head faking us. So we thought, okay, we're going to reopen, city's going to come back to normal, everything's going to be fine. And then we all kind of went into this quasi shutdown mode again. So it took a long time for developers really to understand, and I think for all of us, to really understand what the existing reality is. And I think we understand today what, you know, the reality of San Francisco is much better than we did when we were sort of in this kind of between phase where we were, you know, thinking it was all going back to 2019. And developers had to go through that and figure it out. And I think they figured it out now, and they understand what the market conditions are. And I think regular resellers probably understand that better today too.
Right.
Al?
I just want to reiterate.
Go ahead, Bryson.
Oh, I just want to say it's that process to process, right? I'm going to reiterate that we spent the last 6 to 8 months figuring out the process, and it is a process to process that. And everyone seems to be at the table now willing to transact.
Greg, you had something to say?
Yeah, I'd like to ask the question that 73 people in the audience are asking of Carson and Garrett. Which developments are negotiating?
Bryson?
I would say almost all of them.
All of them.
I would say all of them.
So if people in this audience have written offers that didn't get accepted 6 months ago, should they come back and write those offers today?
Such a good question. Yes, they should.
Because I've been that agent, really frustrated, bumping my head and my client's head against the table, and I've had a hard time negotiating during tough times. Is that different now?
It's unconditionally different. And I mean, I think that Four Seasons Residences is probably, you know, case study number one. I mean, we're looking, you know, at, you know, 15, 20% or more price reductions as we relaunch. And that was a complete process. You know, as to use Kristen's word, the ownership group needed to go through whatever, you know, mental exercise they needed to go through to recognize what the value of the building is. And so we're in the middle of a relaunch in that building with, you know, a significantly different price model and significantly different negotiating expectations. We've been consistently transacting at Mira. We've been consistently transacting at 2238 Market Street, to name a few other projects. Not everyone is in the same boat, so I can't guarantee you every single building will react the same way. But, to your point, Greg, if you have a buyer who's interested in one of our developments and you're having a problem getting a deal done, call me.
Jonathan, you have anything to add as we wrap this segment up? Any other comments?
I have had experience representing buyers in the past 2 months. And I did make a couple notes because I think it is interesting. My experience has been all over the board. I've had successful negotiations of up to 20% off new construction sales on behalf of a buyer recently. And I've also had a new construction seller counter me over the asking price when they verbally told me that they would sell it at the price. That was last week, so.
Oh gosh, hopefully that's not one of the developments that Garrett or I represent.
No comment.
Please call us separately if that happened.
Greg, let me go back to you and ask about the buyer. We're tight for time here. What's the profile of the buyer who came back on January 1? Is there a center cut that we can talk about?
Yeah, I
Greg?
think we've mentioned that, so I'll kind of repeat. We've got people who work in the city that
Right.
didn't feel that they needed to be spending more time in their office, who are now spending more time in their office, and they want a place in the city, full or part-time. There's people renting that realize that now is a great moment to buy. And then there's people who want a second home in the city for work, family, vacation, who probably live somewhere between Pebble Beach and Lake Tahoe, that are coming back, and they're really looking deep. That is now the time for us to buy. And that's before we get people from Texas, Florida, and New York moving here for some of the great jobs that we have in the Bay Area, because we continue, even in a bad NASDAQ environment, the Bay Area alone is the world's 8th largest economy. And we continue to have job opportunities that move smart people here. And when smart people move here, they don't always want to live in a single family home and have a gardener and a security system. They like the idea of full service buildings that are well run, well maintained. Some want new construction, some want resale. And those are the folks that we're seeing right now after January 1st.
So to the panel in general, given that profile that Greg has outlined, what are the buyers seeking? Are there any specifics that they're acquiring in the negotiation process? Benefits, must-haves, etc. What are you feeling? What are you hearing from your buyers?
I think it varies from buyer to buyer. I think from if you're a first-time home buyer trying to get in, there's a real concentration on credits because they want to, relieve HOA dues for the first 2 years or closing costs or what have you. When you're talking about somebody who's coming into, an ultra high net worth or high net worth individual, they're coming in on a cash basis and they're closing potentially in 15 days. And the negotiation there is almost exclusively on price. And they're good negotiators and they will get that price down, or they'll walk away because it's a very discretionary purchase for them. But for, a young couple that's starting off that doesn't want to live, on 30th Avenue or 40th Avenue out in the fog belt, and they want to be downtown, they want to be close to the office, they want to be close to the waterfront. That's a completely different profile than somebody coming into the Four Seasons, for example.
Jonathan, anything to add?
My experience, which is all I can really speak for concretely, is price, and whether that comes in the form of credits or a lower purchase price. Buyers definitely have the perspective that they are in the driver's seat, and they are going to negotiate. And if the seller's not negotiating with them, then they kind of feel that they can, right now at least, they can move on to other products.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Greg, Grayson? No? Let's talk about the bad omens. I picked 3 for discussion today. The death spiral, in quotation marks, the migration to the suburbs, to Marin, East Bay, well, let's pick Millennium Tower, and the fact that it's fighting gravity. Those are just three that play in the headlines. How is that affecting the marketplace? How has it affected? More importantly, how will it affect the marketplace going forward?
I'll take the easy one.
Please.
Millennium Tower is connected to Bedrock as of January 15th, and sales are starting to happen there. Loans were about to happen there before we had the finance debacle of February. People in the building who have long lived there that have suffered through this are now taking this opportunity, knowing that the building has reached its bottom, to increase their views or the size of their place. There's a lot of movement going on within the building. There's probably 6 to 9 months before the street scene repairs itself, but the building is now, as of January, connected to Bedrock following 7 years of litigation and construction. So we're actually quite active in that building, surprisingly, very early. I think there's going to be continued great opportunity there for investors of some of the lower units, and some of the higher units above the 30th floor have some of the best views in downtown. So we're spending a lot of time there unexpectedly, and we're very busy.
Grayson?
The headlines, the negative headlines that you were referencing, Alf, and there's many more, I feel are very important. And they're very important because they produce change, or hopefully will produce change. We need our mayor, we need our board of soups to pay attention and make change. Hopefully we will start to see that, because we do need change in San Francisco. With that said, the market has picked up significantly since January. We have buyers that, left the city during the pandemic, purchased in the suburbs, who are now coming back. We have buyers, as I referenced in the beginning, who are second home purchasers or pied-à-terre purchasers. So there is a strong belief to believe in San Francisco. So there's a balancing act here. We need the headlines to promote change, but the market has improved significantly, and there are buyers out there that believe in San Francisco.
But Grayson, big but. To get a vibrant downtown, you need workers. In spite of what Elon Musk tells us, work from home is a reality. 30% vacancy rate in downtown commercial real estate. A lot of subleases coming due in the next 24 to 36 months. Homelessness everywhere. Recent death in Rincon. I can go on and on with a litany. The reality is, from a long-term perspective, how long will it take before we could say to a buyer, it's going to be okay? And to Greg's point, it is going to be okay long-term. You can't fight the reality of San Francisco as a dominant marketplace. But what about the long-term timing and impact? Anybody?
I think,
Well,
go ahead, Kristen.
I'll say one thing that is absolutely critical. We need workers back in the office. That will start the flywheel of improvement on many of these issues. It is not the only issue that needs to be resolved, but we need people back in the office.
How long do you think that will take? I mean, I'm asking you an unfair question, but what's your gut tell you?
I'm going to take that answer.
Please.
That tech companies are already realizing that their innovation is down, and recruitment and retention is challenged. And nobody wants to create the first rule that requires people to come back, because they'll just quit and go to other companies. But the model of everybody working from home all the time in technology is not sustainable. And this is just now being discovered. And it's a cycle. We've never experienced this cycle before, but we're going to need to get through that to the other side of it. But expect to see more and more people that want to advance within their companies be the ones leading to come back to the office.
Right. And Alf, there was a recent Slack survey that was done that indicated that the majority of tech firms are going to require their workers back in the office for some hybrid situation in 2023.
Yeah, I second that. I mean, look, I've got two 22-year-old research analysts in my office that did not want to, that we hired in right after graduation last year, that did not want to be completely remote. And, you know, I asked them about it. I said, how do you feel? And we have them in 3 days a week right now. And they said it's working great for them because they've got interaction with senior management and with their direct supervisor, and we can talk issues through. I mean, I don't, you know, you can take your accounting function or your bookkeeping function and you can move it to Columbus, Ohio, and you're probably not going to miss a beat. But it's very difficult when you're in a collaborative idea generation type environment. It's very difficult to have everybody apart from one another. And, you know, I'm a big believer. I'm sitting in my office right now. I'm a big believer in coming to the office. I come in 4 days a week, and I do better in the office. I see people in the office, and it works for me. And I do believe that the tech companies are realizing that. And I think that Benioff of Salesforce as much as said that. He said productivity is down significantly. I don't know if he used the word significant. Productivity is down within Salesforce, and there's a direction to come back. Amazon is in the process of coming back, you know, and I hate to say it, but it's like, if the economy turns down a little bit and there's some layoffs within the company, people will come back because they're going to want FaceTime with their direct, you know, managers, et cetera. I read an article in the Wall Street Journal yesterday that said that there was a discussion among certain companies of whether to compensate people differently that worked remotely all or predominant amounts of time. In other words, you might not get paid as much as the person that comes into work. So there's all sorts of different motivations that can get people back. But I do understand that after, you know, 3 years of not being back, that it's a difficult transition.
Do you believe that we will get back to pre-March 2020 levels in terms of no?
You know, the thing about what COVID did was it accelerated a series of changes that were already in process. So it's arguable that if COVID didn't happen, maybe over the next 10 years, we would have gone to you know, quasi hybrid, you know, work from home, work from the office type of model, because commercial real estate was expensive and because we were all killing each other on 101 and trying to come across the Bay Bridge and all the rest of it. So, you know, it's possible that would have happened slowly and more gradually over time anyway. But when COVID hit, it happened instantly. And so COVID accelerated all sorts of changes that were probably in process anyway.
Garrett, final question on this point. How many years before we get back to full streets again and the restaurants reopened?
I have absolutely no idea. And I missed every major event that I you know, could have predicted. I missed the financial crisis. I missed the pandemic. You know, I'm not going to sit here and predict the future.
Right.
What I am going to say is where we are today in San Francisco is better than where we were a year ago or a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. So it is steady improvement. I'm in South of Market. My office is on 7th Street. 7th Street is better today than it was a year ago. And it's cleaner. I have less street issues here. And I'm in the middle of it in South Market.
Bryson?
Compass is back to work. We go into our office. Now, I am not in my office today because I'm actually on spring break with my kids. So I'm not in the office, but our entire organization is back in the office, which started in late 2022.
Jonathan?
I would just add an important element that I see, and this is not as a real estate professional, this is just as a Bay Area, you know, what I would say native after 25 years. If you're in the tech industry and layoffs are, you know, being whispered around every room, basically, and you want to not just survive, but thrive at your job and progress to other jobs and do laterals and, succeed within your organization, you need face time, unless you're super senior, that you can survive on email and Zoom. And I think that is going to be critical to bringing people back to work, back to jobs, back to living near the office. I think I started my career in real estate in 2008. And so I experienced the 2008, 2009, world economic disaster. And things turned around so relatively fast. I think, in a matter, it doesn't feel like that fast, but in a matter of a couple of years, my feeling is that this will be well behind us and we will not even be talking about it.
An unfair question to the four of you. Have any of you in the last 2 years, or do you have plans going forward in the next 12 months to buy investment condominium properties? Garrett, on your own personal behalf. Garrett?
No, and I don't, the problem with that for me is that I don't want my investments tied up in the exact same place as my job is tied up and my business is tied up. It's an extraordinary concentration of risk, to be quite honest with you. So what I want to do is I want to diversify. So I am all in on real estate and on condominium real estate and on West Coast developments. So I don't want to get in any deeper than I already am. And, as an owner of one of the owners of this company, that's quite enough for me. So I'd rather be in bonds right now, something that's a little bit safer.
Christ, same question.
I'm absolutely in the market for a condominium in San Francisco.
Jonathan?
I'm always in the market.
That didn't answer the question. Greg?
Yes, I made 4 trades last year and I'm looking to do more this year.
Excellent. Which leads us to corporate investors and foreign individuals. Start with you, Greg. Are you finding new money coming in from the foreign markets at all?
Not like it was, in 2014, 2015. We're starting to get them as a redirect from East Coast cities, where they're buying more in New York, Washington, D.C., and they're stopping here non-committed. So at least our business and resale, we're not seeing 1/10 of what we used to have.
Anybody else can add to that? Kryson? Garrett?
A little bit at the margins. I've heard anecdotally that they're back, and I've read about it, but I've only seen it at the margins for us.
Agreed.
One of the big complaints I hear anecdotally is the high HOA fees for the downtown condo market. And I've seen some examples where it would turn your hair a paler shade of white. Why is that? Is that a function of the governance of the city, of the zoning regulation? What causes that? Greg, I want to throw it at you first.
What causes that is people's desire for luxury and service. No two people are alike, but some, as Garrett described, with 4 or 5 homes, when they come to San Francisco, it has to be at a place that's going to really speak to them in service, in only a way that about 5 addresses downtown can handle. There are people that would never dream of paying for a doorman, and they want a building that's secure with a good intercom system, but they're not going to pay more than $600 or $700 a month. Everybody has their own idea of luxury. So when you take a person who's expecting a doorman and tell them that this building also has a pool and a fitness center and a gym, it'll be their move to decide if they want to move up to $1,200, $1,300, per month. But every individual has a different idea of luxury and how they want to spend their time. The great news is in San Francisco, you have everything. You have condos with $400 per month dues and condos with $4,000 per month dues.
Kryson, you're nodding?
You're buying lifestyle. You're buying lifestyle. And
you have to pay for it.
Yeah, but you've got to pay for it. I'll tell you an interesting story. When I first came into this business, which was back in I don't know, 2001, 2002, I did my own little spreadsheet, like what things would cost me as a homeowner to maintain my pool, to have a doorman, to have valet service, or a parking spot, if it at a monthly parking garage. I did my own little spreadsheet and found that, HOA dues can be very, very high, but the comparison of what you're getting for that fee is significantly more.
Garrett, anything to add?
No, I think that the city can help the cause a little bit. I think that when the real estate market really had accelerated and turned up quite a bit, and this is going back 4 or 5 years ago, the city's laying on fees left and right, and certainly mellow roost fees. And I understand, like in the Transbay district, owners in the Transbay district are basically paying for the Transbay redevelopment. And there's some benefit that came along with that. But when you talk about a building in the dog patch, for example, that gets a mellow roost tax, that's unconscionable, because there isn't the associated community benefit that comes with that money being either invested or to pay off bonds or what have you. City's got to step up and say, look, we're putting in sewers, we're putting in power, we're doing this, and we're getting it back in property taxes, and not just levying additional fees on developers and homeowners.
So what do you say to a buyer that you represent who sees an HOA fee and has a conniption? What's the antidote?
Let's go to another building.
Yeah.
And find one that fits the pocketbook.
As Christen said, it's not our job to sell someone on the wrong lifestyle. Clearly, if that high fee doesn't work for them, show them the buildings that have the fees that they want. They may not like those buildings, and then they may themselves want to renegotiate how they would afford what they want. But we have enough of everything in full supply at all levels that we don't have to sell them on lifestyle.
Okay. Garrett and Christ, you're going to say something, Christen? Yeah. Garrett and Christen, I want to expand out beyond the city to the rest of the Bay Area, specifically wine country. Christen, you've got condominiums up there with Stanley Ranch. Garrett, you referenced East Bay earlier today. What's the feel for the condo market outside of the city of San Francisco, specifically wine country, South Bay, Silicon Valley, etc.? Garrett, you want to kick us off?
I'll defer to Christen on Napa for sure. We're busier than you can possibly believe in San Jose. We're busier in Hayward. We're busy in Hayward. We're busy in Seattle. We're busy in Los Angeles, in Orange County, and in Phoenix. We feel pretty good about what's going on from a regional perspective. And I would also add, Hawaii to that. We're active on the Big Island and on Maui, and it's unbelievable what the demand is there.
Why is that?
Why? Well, for everybody, most everybody on this call has been to Hawaii, and all you need to do is go to Hawaii once and realize.
No, but Scottsdale, Arizona, other markets in the US, why?
Well, these are quality lifestyle markets. If you look at the gateway cities on the West Coast, and even go inland to, as far inland as Denver, for example, you've seen, really good economies in these cities, good in-migration, and they're gateway cities to the Pacific. So, these are cities that are going to do well. I'm super happy I'm not selling condos in Des Moines, Iowa, right? There's no story there, but there are great stories for these cities and for the resort markets. And people want to be a part of that, whether it be playing golf in Scottsdale or laying on the beach in Maui.
Christen?
I would agree that, outside of San Francisco proper, the markets are very hot, and I'll expand that more nationally. We're seeing, Florida, Texas, Nashville, Chicago, all selling condominiums extremely well, including New York. New York took a little bit longer to come back, but the market has definitely picked up there. So we're seeing good momentum in all those markets. Drilling down on Napa, yes, we do represent Stanley Ranch, which is an auberge property. It's actually single family homes as well as condominiums. We call them villas. And that market is very, very strong. It is a destination market. It is a second home market. And that buyer knows exactly what they want. And they want 5-star branded lifestyle services. And generally, those buyers are not complaining about HOA dues.
We're at the wrap-up stage here. I want to ask a two-headed question to each of the four panelists and take your time on the answer. The first question is really, if you were pitching the value of a condo purchase to one of the, we have agents, these are all agents on the call today on the event. What would you pitch? What would be your primary sales pitch in headline form? And then secondly, if there was one particular project that you wanted to push, that you felt was a real opportunity, or let's use the terminology, a real deal right now, what would that project be? What would that property be if it's not a project? Let me start with you, Jonathan. What's your pitch to the agents on participating today as to why they ought to put their clients into condo purchases right now?
San Francisco is a world-class city at relatively cheap prices. It always has been, and it's even more so right now. We are a world-class city with world-class amenities, airports that serve the entire world, all the different activities and climates you could imagine within 3 hours, a vibrant downtown with world-class museums, and it's relatively cheap compared to Singapore or New York or Paris or London. I mean, in America, we think of San Francisco in the same thought as we think of New York City. I mean, and maybe sort of Los Angeles, very different, obviously. And San Francisco is cheap. San Francisco is on sale. Money talks, and I think that there's so much value to be had here when you really compare world-class cities to each other that it's almost a no-brainer in many ways.
And I'll come back to you on the project you would push. Garrett, what would be your sales pitch to the agents?
I concur with what Jonathan just said. I think that there is value to be had here in this market. I also think that it's up to the buyer to say, well, what lifestyle do you want? I left the city after many, many years of living here because kids came along and we moved to Burlingame and we moved to the suburbs. And now my son is starting high school and we're sending him back up to San Francisco in the fall. So, the boomerang happens. What's your lifestyle? What do you want? I can't sell you a condo or pitch you on a condo or pitch you on a building. It's really kind of what your needs are more so than anything else. But the bigger picture is, you're right. Turn the news off for a second. Turn off the news feeds, which are so debilitating. In times it's like, I can't even look at them anymore, and go out and take a walk. We were downtown a few weeks ago and decided to kind of traverse the downtown area up in the Transbay Park on top of the terminal. It's spectacular up there. Spectacular. Go take a walk. Go down to the waterfront and sit and have a burger at the ferry building and watch the world go by. That's what San Francisco is all about. Go down to the marina or to Chrissy Field or to on Russian Hill and enjoy an afternoon and have lunch on a Saturday, and that's San Francisco. And so if you love San Francisco and you want to get into San Francisco and you believe in San Francisco, ignoring the positives on the economic side and the GDP of the Bay Area and all the tech companies and the incredibly intelligent, well-educated, thoughtful people that live here, This is a great city. If you want to invest in it and you want to start off on the condo level, this is an awesome opportunity, an awesome time to do it.
Grayson,
Two things. Number one, San Francisco is a super prime city. It is a super prime city. What Jonathan was mentioning is that we are in the same league as London and Singapore and New York and so forth. And let's not forget it. Let's remember to believe in San Francisco. So that's one point. The second point I'd like to make is that I hear from so many agents that they take their buyers to properties that are not new developments, and they spend an inordinate amount of time getting through an offer process, and they don't get the deal. Their buyer doesn't get it. They don't get it. New development, you bring your buyer in, there's not multiple offers, you're handheld through the process. It is so easy right now, and those developers are willing to make deals. So really consider bringing your buyers, if it meets their needs, to new developments.
by the way, that deal period is how long? When does that window shut? If at all?
Oh, go ahead, Garrett.
No, it's okay.
I think the opportunity is this spring to the fall.
Garrett?
I think it's a little longer than that. Honestly, I think that when developers make the decision to sort of break the book, right, break the pro forma, and say, look, this building was pro forma at $1,500 a foot. Market reality is $1,300 a foot. Once they make that decision, they tend to really move through it pretty quickly. They may, stretch it out at the end to try and, extend a little bit, better return when they get down to the last few units. But I think that this period is probably going to extend a little bit further, probably into 2024.
Greg, your pitch to the agent would be what?
Sure.
Like yourself.
I'm going to go back to the flight to quality. So you've now toured everything. You have found the best product, and you're hopefully going to be focusing on resale, which is what I'm offering. But if it's any of the units that we have on the market and it speaks to a flight to quality and it works for you, now is your time to negotiate. Mm-hmm. Now is your time to negotiate, because the bottom is in the bottom is in our rear view mirror. And so let me just tell you 4 negotiations that happened right before you. Offered at $6 million, sold at 5. Cost basis $9 million, sold at 6. Cost basis $9 million, sold at 6.5. Cost basis $13 million, sold at $8.75 million. These are live from the last 8 weeks. Agent, now is your moment.
All right, so we're shutting down here. We're going to close it off with this. We never do this, but I want to do this. Greg, what project would you push right now, or property?
I'm going right back to the Four Seasons private residences.
Because
of what Garrett said about pricing.
Jonathan?
I think I would just come back to the lifestyle decision.
Not the question. Give me the specific project or property. I'll come back to you. Garrett?
It's the Four Seasons for me. I mean, there aren't very many buildings that offer 3,500 square feet of living space in the sky with views and world-class Four Seasons services at a discount.
I'd like to add, I have 3 clients living in that building, and they swear by the service. They all came from 5-star buildings, and they all say that the Four Seasons private residences is the greatest living experience they've ever had. So well done there.
Jonathan?
Yeah, I had to think about it a little bit, but Millennium Tower.
Because?
Value, amazing building. I've always loved the building since it first opened up. It was a major tragedy what happened, but it's fixed mostly, just don't get a fish tank.
Grayson?
the residences at Yerba Buena Island. And I'm going to say that all of these products in San Francisco, many of them look the same. What makes Yerba Buena Island very distinct is that you get the best of both worlds. You're in an urban setting, but you get nature right out your front door.
YBI is beautiful, Kristen.
Thank you,
And
Garrett.
that view. Panel, thank you very, very much. This has been very illuminating. We covered the ground, and hopefully the agents have paid attention, and we may see some activity. So I want to thank you all for your comments, for your insights today. To our audience, a reminder that we'll send the Zoom link out to you late this afternoon. So if you want to go back and see something or pick up a point, it'll be available on YouTube when we send you the Zoom link. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, at 11 o'clock on the dot, we are adjourned for the day. We wish you great success and great sales. Thank you, y'all.
Thank you, Alf.
Thank
Take
you.
care.